Taylor Heinicke may be something that Washington has found as a candidate for their quarterback in 2021 and maybe beyond. Let's talk about some of the losers from Wild Card Weekend. Hey, it's football. There's winners and there's losers. And even though Washington lost, we expected them to lose. They may have found something. What did you see from Heinicke, Chris? And do you think that he has a fair shot at taking that job next year? Should he get a fair shot at it?
I don't know if I could say that. I don't know if I could say, it was an unbelievable performance. It really was. And I'm not trying to take anything away, but we have seen nothing that has been like that, as far as preseason football. I know he got to play in Carolina a little bit, did well at the end of the Carolina Panthers game a few weeks ago as well. But we had never seen a performance like that where you just go, oh, okay. I mean, that's it. We got to sign him, and he's got to be the starting quarterback. So I think he's certainly earned the right to go back there and be the backup quarterback, compete for that, and maybe even be a backup quarterback somewhere else. But I don't think just off of one performance you can just go, we found our guy, and now we're going to go with that. I don't think that will go over with the fan base. And, again, I think I would need more evidence and a few more games to see a guy before I anoint him that. So, yeah, they still have to address the quarterback situation. There's no doubt. But, man, Washington, I'm excited about Washington. Awesome defensive line, good offensive line, Antonio Gibson, Terry McLaurin, Logan Thomas at tight end. There's a lot of things to like about their team. They're not far off. They get a quarterback and, a player here and a player there, and I'd say watch out for Washington in 2021.
The thing about Taylor Heinicke that I'd be concerned about, I feel like he emptied the tank in an effort to audition for the job, taking some physical risks, getting himself banged up, having to go to the locker room. It may not be sustainable week in and week out for him to go full speed sprint for a whole game. He did it for one game, trying to secure his future, trying to help the team advance. That's not a week in and week out answer at the quarterback position. And, there's been some rumors linking Cam Newton to Washington because of the Ron Rivera connection. 9 years together in Carolina, I'm not sure that works for either guy. I think that they both may need to go their own way, but obviously the quarterback position needs to get solved in Washington. And once they solve it, once they get somebody they feel good about. And Alex Smith, he's due to make more than $18 million next year. He's not sure he's going to play there. Surely not going to want to pay him that. That, to me, is the big question for them. What's their strategy? Sign a free agent, and it seems like every year now there will be free agent quarterbacks where for years there were none.
Yeah.
Every year there's going to be options. Or you draft a guy or you try to trade for a guy, but that's going to be the key. What does Ron Rivera and Scott Turner want? What do they envision their quarterback being? Because with the defense and the weapons, this could be a team that doesn't just become a 7-9 division champion on a regular basis. They could be the team that takes over the NFC East.
I don't doubt that. I really don't. The hard work is done, as you've said. They got guys to win battles up front. They got some young, talented guys. The team is really, in a pretty good spot altogether. And as far as the Cam Newton conversation, you're right. I hear that a lot over the last few weeks. I don't think that makes any sense for the Washington football team. They got a younger team that is growing and has a chance to go in an upward direction. I don't know if you want to bring a guy in who's towards the end and where you might be having this same conversation, a year or two from now again going, okay, now who are we going to bring in after Cam Newton? And also, yes, a guy like Cam Newton, we know he's a different presence, a different guy in the locker room altogether. Sometimes you don't want that kind of guy with a young, impressionable team that's kind of growing. So I don't think that makes sense necessarily, and I would expect them to exhaust other avenues other than Cam Newton and free agency or the draft.
Yeah, everybody wants that answer for 5 or 10 years if they can find it, and I think that's job number one. Not a Band-Aid, but a foundation for the future of the franchise. The Bears thought they had their foundation in Mitchell Trubisky, who was the second overall pick after they traded up in the 2017 draft. His contract now expired. Technically not expired until March 17 at 4 p.m. Eastern, when he can sign with anyone unless he re-signs with the Bears. Here's Trubisky in the aftermath of Sunday's 21-9 loss to the Saints on whether or not he can be the answer for the Bears moving forward.
Mitch, do you want to be back, here next year?
Yeah, I think I could definitely see myself back here next year. Obviously, a lot of that's out of my control, but it feels like home, and it feels like we have unfinished business. And right now, I'm really just bummed about how the season being over and how the game went. So a lot of emotions going on right now, but I could see that, but we'll see. There's a lot of things that got to happen and a lot of decisions that got to be made, and it's out of my control, but I could see that.
It doesn't sound very convincing as he says it. That's the difference between the words on paper and seeing the words delivered. I think he's just saying what he has to say. I could see it. Yeah, I could see it, but I'd like to not see it. I'd like to see something new. I get the impression from Trubisky that's what he's looking for. And the other side of it, too, is what do the Bears want? Are they going to re-up Mitchell Trubisky under these circumstances? They didn't use the fifth-year option. He's going to be a free agent. Right. The franchise tag, based upon the performance we saw in the postseason, highly unlikely. And, we still don't know what the Bears are going to do by way of their GM and their head coach. There's speculation in Chicago that GM Ryan Pace could be in danger. I don't like the idea of firing the GM and matching the GM with the coach who's already been there. Matt Nagy's won enough to get to the playoffs twice in his first 3 seasons and just got there this year. Yeah, they were 8-8, but they still got there. I think you keep both or you keep neither.
Yeah.
And if you keep neither, finally, they've got to have the conversation about whether or not team president Ted Phillips needs to go. So maybe just keep all 3 and do it again. But quarterback is going to be key. Chris, Trubisky, I'd be surprised if he's back. They got to get somebody who can run the offense the way that Matt Nagy wants to run it, period. If Matt Nagy's not going to completely and totally overhaul the offense, although we saw some of that this year, I think he'd rather run his offense. He needs to find someone who can run his offense.
All right, but, that's limited people. What's he want to run? Kansas City? And, find me Patrick Mahomes, and then fine, let's go. Okay. Oh, that's right. That's kind of hard to find.
They had a shot at it.
I know. You're right. I know.
If you haven't heard.
So the first thing is, I am more of along your lines. Chicago's closer to the top than the bottom. I don't look at this as like a teardown job. Yeah, I know, the GM, Ryan Pace, has had a few mistakes here and there, but overall, that Bears roster is pretty damn good. It's not perfect. Matt Nagy, I think I could say the same thing. There's been some mistakes, and certainly, the offense is underwhelming, but overall, it's been pretty damn good. 12-4, what was it in 2019? 8-8, right? Didn't make the playoffs. This year, it's 8-8. They got in the playoffs. And, still continued to fight and fought through a lot of adversity. He did show the ability to adjust. I think that was key there. As far as the Mitchell Trubisky thing is, I would just say to Chicago and go, well, show me a better option to replace him, okay? If you think you can get Matt Stafford or something like that, then fine. Okay, see you later, Mitchell Trubisky. But if it's going to be another, we're going to bring in some Nick Foles, not really a starter in the NFL, backup guy, then I would go, that's just stupid. Stop wasting your time. Give it to Mitchell Trubisky. There's not going to be, nobody's going to pay Mitchell Trubisky franchise money like you're saying, or a big contract. They should be able to sign him to a 1 or 2 year deal at a very manageable number and work with that and just fix the roster a little bit. And if Matt Nagy's willing to go all in on this style of offense or adjusting to the players he has, then damn, they could be better than they were this year and right back in the thick of things. So I'm in the favor of keeping things the way they are there in Chicago.
And the worst thing that could happen for the Bears would be to see Trubisky go somewhere else and have him become a star somewhere else. That would just be the ultimate bag of salt on the wound from taking Trubisky over Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes if you end up having to hear about Trubisky being great somewhere else. And, if there's a coach that looks at the skill set and says, I can get the most out of this guy, not quite make him into a Josh Allen, but like a Josh Allen. You have that mobility. You've got the size. If you use it the right way, if you use it smart and you develop as a passer and you have some good weapons around you, it's salvageable. And maybe that's what the Bears need to do, come up with some sort of a short-term bridge option to keep Trubisky around unless they have a better opportunity to upgrade. But that's the key. You got to look at what you have versus what you may have And even though there are more quarterbacks available than ever before, there still aren't great quarterbacks just hanging around waiting for someone to say, hey, come join our team.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.